Hello everybody, my name is Steve Hambling. I'm founder and CEO of Kybos, a dedicated UK JetOps partnership. I'm here today with Tom Siviter. Tom is a first-time CFO, so we've come to talk to him about his experience. So Tom, tell us a bit about yourself.
So, as you say, it's my first time as a CFO. My background, I've started right from the grassroots accounting. I'm a chartered management accountant. Yeah, I'm the chartered management accountant. So went through the painful exams as we all do.
Yeah.
No social life at the time.
Absolutely.
But for me, I've always had plenty of group level positions, and I took the conscious decision to have a more grassroots side of it as well. So yes. I had group FP&A roles,
yes,
and then went to a finance manager position. So going back to basics, debits and credits, looking after cash flows for certain sites, balance sheets, all of the basic accountancy principles in practice.
But with the management accounting, understanding the root cause of everything.
Exactly. So those two sets of skills combined, it allowed me to then work on explaining finance to non-finance people as well.
Yeah.
I was working for DHL, so I was on an operations site working with general managers, so having to explain how the site was performing. One of the benefits of that was actually being able to, the general manager was very open with me and said, yes, look, finance is not my gig.
Yeah.
Can you help me? Give it in layman's terms.
Perfect.
So
that's what our job is, isn't it? It's
exactly.
Translating.
Exactly. So he was very appreciative of that, and we were able to have a good partnership together to make sure that we were on the same page. And that also enabled me to broaden that skill set for me.
Excellent.
From there, went back to I guess a little bit of a comfort zone, back to FP&A.
Yes.
And had a few positions there for a private equity-backed company. And again, that was reporting direct to the CFO at the time. And again, he was a fantastic CFO, very welcoming and wanting to help everyone grow.
And you get a real insight with FP&A, don't you? Because you're seeing the future all the time, as it were.
Exactly. And that for me also enabled me to see, well, what are CFOs looking for? If I have that aspiration to become a CFO, what trends should I be looking at? I was used to spotting trends being in FP&A, but what's the useful information that's going to help the CFO, the CEO make those correct marketing decisions?
Add some real value.
Exactly. And then, as you know, from there, I then went to being a financial consultant, implementing products for forecasting. That was also a fantastic experience because it got me into industries that I'd never seen how those industries forecast.
The great thing about consultancy is you see such a wide range all the time. It really keeps you sharp, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and you get to see how they're forecasting, the different skill sets that maybe you might need, because being a CFO, you may be a great CFO in one industry but not in another. So getting that experience and that exposure was fantastic, and also the relationship building side of it as well. At the end of the day, we're all people, and the relationships that we build, those are the things that really help us grow.
The projects are easy; it's the customers that need managing. Right?
Exactly. So from there, I had a fantastic opportunity to come work for Contract Energy Management, and as CFO.
Yes.
And that's always been an aspiration of mine to go back to working in that SME sector, to regain the control, to really utilise my skill set to implement changes, implement them well and quickly. Depending on the size of the organisation, in different FP&A roles, some of that information, for change may take a long time to implement. Whereas back in the SME sector, it's really within my control that does come with some of its downsides. The weight is on your shoulders.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you're perfectly set up for this new role, Tom.
It's going well so far. Good. Really enjoyed it.
So Tom, you've moved to CEM. We're next to this an industrial coffee machine is what it looks like, but this is what CEM installed, I believe, among other things. Tell us a bit about CEM.
Sure. So this is a heat interface unit. So we work in the commercial heating and ventilation sector. We're a partner, one of a few partners in the UK with Alfa Laval.
Yes, heard of them.
So they are essentially the Rolls Royce of the industry. Their components are far superior, and they're the components that you want if you're looking to.
Yeah, you can see in some of the workmanship here that it's definitely top end.
Absolutely. So we work closely with Alfa Laval. We work with maintenance contracts, so we will go out to sites, a lot of residential areas that we go to. So you may have shared heating schemes, for example.
Okay, yep.
So in shared heating schemes, you may have apartments that have one of these heat interface units. So we service and install these.
Okay.
The other thing that we do with Alfa Laval is install and supply spares and heat exchangers. And probably 50% of our business is around the maintenance portfolio that we operate.
Yes.
And then another split of that is probably 25% is then somewhere in the region of the spares and the rechargeable work that comes from those maintenance contracts. And the remainder is made up by project work.
Okay. So it's full life cycle.
Yes.
You install it, you maintain it, you repair it.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So what sort of size is CEM?
So we currently have around 25 employees, a region of around 10 engineers, and we're growing that. We're getting more people on board. Engineers are hard to come by.
Yes. Good ones even harder.
Exactly. So we're definitely in the region of looking to expand on the workforce that we have.
Okay. Any engineers out there? Talk to Tom.
So all of our engineers are multidisciplined. So gas, electricity. They're very skilled individuals and an adept bunch.
You can't get one of these wrong, can you? It's gonna get wrong big, isn't it?
No, especially when you're looking at some of the commercial buildings that we look after. Many buildings in London.
Yes, some quite famous ones, I think.
Yes, so the Gurkha building we've worked in. So we look after some incredible buildings as well.
It must be fascinating to work on. So what sort of size is CEM?
So last year we turned over 2.8 million in terms of revenue.
Yes.
This year at the moment we've got a few more months to trade, but we're looking to reach the region of about 4 million.
Yes.
So again,
that's
fantastic.
30% growth.
Fantastic growth in the year. The benefit of that is it allows us. We're very much of the inclination to invest back into the business.
Yes.
So with that growth, we're able to invest in the business to provide future growth.
Yes.
So we're on a very ambitious target. So in the next year, we're looking to go from 4 to the region of 6 to 7 million.
Wow.
And from there, the real aspirational number is to hit that 10 million turnover.
That is a big growth rate, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
It is.
So a fascinating time to join CEM.
Absolutely.
So Tom, I couldn't help but get excited when you said growth rate from 2.8 to 10 million over 3 years, and you've got 3 different revenue streams. My forecasting brain is going wild at this point. So I know you have a forecasting background as well. I know you're running a forecast. Tell us a bit about the fundamentals. What are the drivers in there, and what does it look like?
Sure. So for me, as you say, that forecasting background, having FP&A skill set, immediately when I came in here, it was working out what the drivers are. So for us, we have maintenance contracts. We have a core set of engineers, multidiscipline engineers. And from there, I can then start to look at utilisation. So as with any professional services.
Sheets, utilisation rates.
Exactly, billable rates.
Yeah, time to get to jobs.
Exactly.
Right down in the fundamentals.
Absolutely. And getting all that information for us is key to understand our business.
Yes, and getting accurate timesheets put in the system by these guys whose job it is to not do timesheets, but to put these in.
Exactly, and we, for example, one of the initiatives I have at the moment is to make that process more simpler for them. So once that's easier, it means that we can then start to go back to my first point, that we get timely and accurate information.
Yes.
So for me, if I can make that more timely and accurate, it's then going to improve the process. We can step in if we can see anything on a project that is maybe going awry, and really have a good understanding of our profitability. Where we've got those maintenance contracts, obviously we've got a pool of labour. We know how much labour we have. We know how much labour each of those contracts roughly uses in a period of say a year. They range from monthly, quarterly, biannual visits.
Yes.
With a maintenance schedule that attached to those.
Is it an annual payment or is it a monthly payment from the customers? How does it? You've got a matching issue there, haven't you?
Yeah, so we have a couple of different scenarios. So we have some that are monthly, mostly on quarterly. We're very lucky that the most of them are quarterly in advance.
Yes.
So from a cash flow
perspective,
that's fantastic. So those maintenance contracts build up is a good place to start from a forecasting perspective, because we can see, well, we've already got this level of commitment. These are the number of hours that we have. This is where we can now see our delta between either additional maintenance contracts or projects work.
Yes.
Off the back of our maintenance contracts, we then have our project work.
Yes.
So we will work closely with Alfa Laval and others to have some pretty big projects where we may be...
So perhaps up to 12 months, I understand.
Some of them can be up to 12 months if they're multi-site customers. And then again, depending on the complexity of those, they could be as short as a month.
Yes.
So again, having that up-to-date information, especially if it's a monthly project, we need to know, is there anything that's going to go array here, so we can keep it within time and cost-wise as well.
Yes.
On budget.
And presumably you're getting stage payments on some of these larger ones?
Yeah, so we have applications that we have to put forward for percentage complete, sign off those, and then milestone payments from those applications.
So some pretty classic work in progress calculations and cash flow and revenue recognition issues in there.
Absolutely, and we have to model that.
Yes.
And what we do with these new projects is that we'll have a template to capture all of that data up front, so we can get at least a templated approach as to this is how we believe this project should run.
Yes.
From a revenue recognition.
And get the contract right.
Exactly, and get the contract right to make sure that we're not running in deficits between any subcontractors that we may have or purchases of materials.
Yes.
Making sure that the balance is correct.
Yeah, these the forecasts that have those sort of work in progress, revenue recognition, cash flow issues, I always find really interesting. There's so much to model, but it's so key to the business, because ultimately you're modeling the cash. And you talked about a growth rate that's pretty challenging and quite a change from where this business has been. So you're going to be keeping an eye on that forecast pretty closely, I would have thought.
Absolutely, and it's key to the success. And like I said before, we want to make sure we're sustainable in that growth.
Yes.
We don't want to be hitting any speed bumps along the way. So for us, making sure we've got that in place, make sure we've got the right controls in place for those live projects.
Yes.
So our project managers are kept up to date with those details.
Yeah.
Not just from a logistical point of view, but also financially as well.
Yes.
So they understand the impacts of any decisions that are being made as well.
Absolutely, because when projects go wrong, they tend to go wrong quickly. So if you haven't got some fairly quick information, you don't spot it as soon as you could have done and can't take corrective action.
Absolutely. And off the back of that, in terms of the forecasting, we want to make sure we can track the actuals at the same level of granularity.
Absolutely.
So making sure we can give relevant information to the project managers here, that it marries up quite nicely with if they've gone out to and filled in tenders for jobs.
Yes.
They can analyse it in a way that's useful for them.
Yes.
Not only for them, but also the customer. The customer's going to have a project manager. They're going to want to know different reports based on percentage complete of different either tranches of work.
Yes.
Off of that.
So much relies on this. I mean, the great thing about project work, it is all about forecasting forwards. Unlike other businesses, which is kind of counting the beans after it's happened, it's the future actually. Yeah, it informs your work in progress calculation. It informs your revenue calculation. So it's very much integral to the way you work in a way that other models aren't. It's always fascinating.
Yeah, and I think that's the more challenging area, I think, of the forecasting. Like I say, with the maintenance contracts, we have our portfolio, and they are maybe slightly easier to that's the easy starting point.
Absolutely.
That's the bread and butter that we start with.
Yes.
The projects, that's as we move on, those are the more challenging things.
Yes.
Where it becomes difficult is, as I say, we've got some long-term opportunities where we would like to grow the business. If those come off, then it'd be a fantastic place to be. But for me, it's more forecast orientated than budget based.
Yes.
For me, we have an aspiration, but you can't predict, so far in the future for us. So we know what our target will be. But for us, the forecast is where we then focusing on, this is how we're going to deliver it.
Now that's an interesting point. I have quite strong views about budgeting, but yeah, I think what you just said was the forecasting is now you run the business with it. You have a budget. It's an aspiration, but it's going to be out of date almost as quickly as you use it, because your business is moving so quickly that it can't possibly predict what's going to be a range of different outcomes. You don't know what they are, and you have to be able to react to how that is. So having an up-to-date forecast, and a forecast that thinks about different scenarios and outcomes based on winning or losing contracts, big contracts by the sounds of things, that's what you're looking at each day, not a budget.
Absolutely. And I think one of the key success factors for us in this growth path is, if the forecast is correct, we're then able to start planning a couple of steps ahead.
Yes.
To really think from a cash flow perspective, that we're in a good place to, if we need to invest in recruitment, we need to invest in tools, property,
yes.
anything that we need to invest in, we know where we are, and we can be one step ahead of the game in that respect.
Yeah. So really adding value to the business running smoothly, which is what a good forecast and what a good CFO should be doing. So you're going to run into some systems problems here, Tom. I think you've already encountered one. I think you're hitting the limits on your financial system, I think you said. So that's going to be high up your list.
Yeah. So for us, our ERP system, it works functionally for us. It does what we need it to as a bare minimum. But we need to start looking at, when I talk about tagging earlier, making sure that all of our other systems, we use a job creation system that's cloud-based. So if there's a call out, it's registered as a job. All of that data needs to start feeding into the ERP system, so we can perform that analysis. So we can look, for example, at our maintenance contracts. Are they profitable? Are we spending too many hours at a particular site? Is there any analysis that can help the customer on that respect as well? To provide them some reporting back to say, actually, something maybe is uneconomical, and maybe it's worth replacing, and help them on that respect as well.
It's got to grow with you, hasn't it? And I can see with the growth path you're talking about, it's not going to be too long before you're knocking on my door and possibly some competitors, although I won't allow that, obviously. For the forecasting system is going to run out of room as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It needs to be dynamic for it to work.
Yes.
I think once you've identified those drivers, as you know, there's many ways to do that. You can start off as basic as Excel.
Absolutely, nothing wrong with Excel.
And for me, that's currently where we are.
Yes.
We are Excel based to build the models, to understand the drivers, to map it out and show that these drivers work and they're accurate.
Yeah.
Once we know that those are accurate and those are going to work for us going forward, that's then for me that's the plunge point to say, Now we need a piece of software that does this better.
Scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've got the extra dimension of project over and above all the other dimensions, if nothing else. And perhaps project profitability and supplier profitability, even, I guess. So you can see a lot of features that you could put into that Excel runs out of room at that point. In terms of being able to turn around a forecast at the speed you need, technically it can do it. You start to drown.
Absolutely, and especially on the cash flow forecast, for example. As soon as you take that data out of a system and you start to analyze it, it's already moved on at that point.
Yeah.
So if you can get to a place where you've got live systems feeding into your forecast, and based on, for example, your credit controllers maybe putting information in against those debtors or projects when they're invoiced, you can use that to your advantage and drive your cash flow from there.
Yeah, I'm a great believer in a forecast needs to be three-way. It needs to be profit and loss, balance sheet, cash flow, all tied together, all live, real time. You can't afford to make a mistake. Absolutely,
and from that, it feeds into the reporting that you need, especially for us. That there's two owners of this business. They want to see the progression. They want the up-to-date information.
Yeah.
They want to see that the shareholders' funds are growing.
Yeah.
They want to see all that information.
It's their funds, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So all of that has to feature in there. It can't just be a single dimension of here's a P&L and not understand the drivers behind it or the assumptions.
Yes. Wow. You've got a busy job on your hands there, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tom, first time as a CFO, what's that like? I assume you had a sort of 2 or 3 months to worry about it, and then you hit day one. How did it go?
Absolutely, yeah. It was one of those moments where careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
So like I say before, it's always been an aspiration of mine.
Yes.
And then the reality kicks in.
Yeah.
But sort of day one for me was really understand what systems we've got in place, what the processes were.
Yes.
Really look at that. Again, I'm very much back to basics and process driven
sort of guy. Yeah.
Exactly. So for me, looking all of that, procure to cash cycle.
Yes.
Looking at as soon as we get a call in to say we need an engineer to come to site.
Yeah.
How's that working? All the way up to our billing and how we're billing from that.
Yeah.
Off the back of that, also understanding then what our key drivers are.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Drivers are everything, aren't they, in our role?
Absolutely. So for me to really understand that, spend some time with all of the different departments here, make sure I've understood everything from the ground up, because for me, having had a background in the systems side of things,
yes,
the data can be key.
Yes.
So for me, if I can influence anything from the very beginning and tag it with something that I can analyze later on, and not create any additional work for anyone,
tags,
then fantastic. It makes my life easier from an analysis side. Looking
and
at
allows you then to feed more back into the business.
Exactly.
In terms of understanding and
definitely.
Foresight.
So for me, when I came in, those were my sort of ambitions in terms of getting to an accurate and timely reporting and forecasting as well.
Yes. And presumably there's a translation role going on here. I'd imagine a business of this size is going to be more engineering focused than finance focused perhaps, and there's some people need some help in understanding the finance side of things.
Absolutely, yeah. So for me, again, that skill set that I've got, and talking about finance to non-finance individuals, that's come in really useful. And then also explaining to them the different scenarios that we've got ahead, especially with our ambitious growth plan.
Yes, absolutely.
So that really has been fundamental to that.
Fantastic. So you've 50 days in, I think now. Let's say the first 100 days are key. I'd imagine the first 50 days have been even more key. Have you got in play? Is it what you expected?
Yeah, I think it's so most of the things are as I expected. There's been a few challenges along the way, like I say, we're an SME business. I think one of the things I learned very quickly is being very ambitious and wanting to see results very quickly. Having to understand that we can't do everything all at once.
Yes.
So we've got to,
so you have your list.
So I've got my list of internal projects and prioritizing those. So I guess the first month for me was really understanding how things are working currently, going away, having to think about how I can improve on those things, and then prioritizing what we need to do. What are the key wins that we can get very quickly to either automate different parts of what we're doing, or really see the benefit of time saving and efficiencies.
Yeah. And then you get that chunk taken out every month to do month end. So you have to fit it all in around the real world day to day and getting cash through the door presumably. And
absolutely, and it's a massively varied role. So not only have we got like you say the different month end postings, it's the credit control side of things. It's making sure we've got the right controls in place to obviously protect ourselves,
of course.
To make sure that we're trading responsibly, and also off the back of that, actually being involved in the day to day. What are we doing today? Where are our engineers? What projects are we working on? Actually going back to not just numbers on a screen, but actually what are we doing for those numbers on the screen?
Yes.
And being involved in that. So for me, having that real understanding of how the business is running and how that translates into the financial performance.
Do you go as far as going out on site to some of the projects? Or
not yet. I do want to go out to a couple of sites, health and safety permitting.
Of course, yes.
But have a good relationship with the engineers. Again, wanting to make their guys their life easy. So obviously we're timesheet driven. So making things easy for them, not making things more difficult than they need to be.
Yeah. Minimum necessary admin.
Exactly.
So 50 days in, are you enjoying it?
Absolutely.
You look like
the challenges that are facing me, the fact that I can see instant improvements from some of the processes I've changed already, the feedback from the whole business, that they're happy that the changes we're implementing are sending us in the right direction, has been fantastic to have feedback.
I can see the energy actually. You're clearly a man enjoying his job. There's lots of people watching this. I hope there's lots of people watching this. Many of them will be following in your footsteps, as it were, doing sort of starting to do some more senior finance roles and perhaps eyeing up becoming a CFO for the first time and have that as a career path. You've just trodden those boards. What advice would you have for budding CFOs?
I think the first thing I would say is try not to have any babies within the second week of starting the new role.
We had to delay this, didn't we, because of it? And everyone's well, I hope.
Yeah, everyone's doing great. I'm a big family person, so it's been fantastic.
Yeah, I can see the matchsticks.
I can recommend some good coffee.
Okay, so good coffee. Don't have a baby. Anything else?
I think taking a pragmatic approach to these things. Really, don't go in all guns blazing with some preconceptual ideas that you may have. Obviously, you're going to come in with those of things that you think you may be able to improve on. But really understanding how the business operates first is key for me.
Yes.
Doing this change management, because getting people involved at the beginning, really getting understanding how things are working, get them involved to make sure that they understand these changes that we're doing, they're going to benefit everyone, and not just jump the gun on trying to change things too soon. Yeah,
because you can see that growth rate coming, but you've got to take people with you.
Absolutely.
And that is going to be a change. So this business has been around 30 years, I think.
Yeah, just over 30 years. Yeah,
potentially coming.
Absolutely. We've got to make sure we're sustainable, fundamentally. So we've got to make sure we've got the right controls in place. We can grow with the opportunities that present themselves to us at the moment, and having those in place should hopefully gear us up for success.
So that core understanding of the fundamentals, which is the same in our business, you cannot do our role without understanding the fundamentals. It's the same when you come in as a new CFO. you've got to get a grassroots understanding of the business in order to then, well, you've got a to-do list, I guess. Yeah, your 50 days.
Absolutely.
First 50 days, you get your to-do list. And would you advise that's the sort of approach that someone takes?
Definitely. I think it's understanding the business is for sure is the first thing. Obviously, off the back of that, that sort of highlights into then different drivers.
Yeah.
So going back to the finance world of
Yeah,
things, I'm then
absolutely.
thinking, how am I going to forecast this going forward?
Yeah.
And then understanding the processes, and from there, once you've got that, have a good list of where we are today, what changes I feel that I can make, and then really look at where the biggest wins are that we can implement.
So that prioritization is important.
Exactly.
And presumably the relationships. I mean, there's a senior team here, I'm sure, a CEO in particular. That relationship is going to be key, isn't it?
Absolutely. And for me, the relationships that have not just the senior management, but right through the organisation, that really ensures that we operate smoothly.
Yes.
We build up a lot of goodwill within this organisation.
Yeah.
We do pride ourselves on being a good employer.
Yes.
And we do get that feedback. We've got some engineers that have been there many years. In fact, unfortunately, we have an engineer that has just retired after 18 years working for us.
Yes.
So that really is testament to
Yes.
how we operate.
Well, clearly, you walk the walk. Obviously, sounds like you have exciting times ahead, Tom. Thank you, Tom. That was great. Being there as somebody comes into their first role and does, as I said, that first 50 days, you only get to do that once, and it's clear you're absolutely loving it. It's clear that CEM has got a great future, and it's clearly in safe hands with you at the CFO helm. I wish you well.